than there had been in the previous 2 months of the summer. But one of the big kind of newsy topics, which we're going to talk about today, it sounds like the NHL is getting ready to implement a playoff salary cap this season. It was something that was agreed upon in the new CBA that was signed, but the CBA doesn't necessarily kick in until next year. But apparently there's a few things within the CBA that they have collectively bargained to begin immediately. And the playoff salary cap is one of those things. Does that surprise you, Dave?
A little bit. I would have thought something like that they would give at least a year.
Yeah.
For teams to kind of get themselves a comment. No. And also, like, your CBA doesn't technically start until next year anyway. So, like, I'm kind of surprised that they, put themselves in a position where they want a postseason salary cap starting in the 2026 postseason.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that I am surprised that they wouldn't have given teams a little bit more of a runway, so that maybe possibly they did alert the GM saying, hey, by the way, this is not announced yet, it's not formalized, but we're hoping that a playoff salary cap will be implemented. We can agree to that officially, and it could be in place for this year's playoffs. So keep that in mind in the back of your heads, just in case when you're going about your off season. Obviously it sounds like this is going to happen. This is what's being reported by all the insiders right now. I don't think there was an official statement from the league just yet, just as of now considered a quote unquote report. But usually when everyone's reporting it, it does mean that it's going to come into effect. But like, what does this mean? Basically, that's the question that maybe people are asking. Like, what do you mean playoff salary cap? What are you talking about? And essentially, it's just like a regular season now. The playoff salary cap, every team's gonna have $95 million in playoff salaries that they can dress. Now, that's the one difference. It is a playoff. It has to be cap eligible. Just your dressed roster has to be cap eligible. So you can have, a couple extras on your roster. You can have those extra skaters that don't count against the cap. But every roster that is active and dresses in a playoff game must be cap compliant. Unlike previous years where we've seen situations where teams have taken advantage of the salary cap loopholes, and they've rested guys down the stretch who are quote unquote hurt, but miraculously we're ready to go for game one of the season, and all the while they're able to make some trades to beef up their team. You look at last year with the Florida Panthers, right? Aaron Ekblad is out, and then all of a sudden Matt Tkachuk was out and placed on LTIR. That opened up a lot of cap space for them to go out and get Seth Jones and Brad Marchand. Going forward, that might not be a possibility for teams because every team is going to have to be cap compliant. But what I thought was very interesting, Dave, was that unlike the regular season, where when you make additions at the deadline, you can accrue cap space and gain more of it. That's not a thing in the playoffs. I don't know if you knew that, but when I was reading into this, when I saw the report, and I read this paragraph here, under the new playoff salary cap, however, players' full season salaries will be used to calculate if a team is cap compliant in the postseason, even if they're only on the books for a small portion of the team. So essentially, cap accrual doesn't mean nearly as much as it used to, which, of course, the 1 year the Maple Leafs can accrue cap, they're not going to really be able to utilize it to the full extent because, well, they still will have to be cap compliant come puck drop of the regular season.
Yeah.
For the playoffs.
Yeah, that's like, we hear, like, this is the thing with the salary cap has become it kind of turns people a little off because it's just like, oh, you have cap space. Well, guess what? You could actually accrue more cap space. Well, like, how? Like, how does it, like, the whole calculation? I know there's a lot of people that are able to quickly, realize and understand it. But, like, if you're looking at the casual fan that just wants to know, what can my team do? And now it's just like, what you thought your team could do is what they can do now. Throw that out the window. And yeah, it's so funny because I hear so many fans, especially last year, the biggest complaint wasn't that Florida was over the cap. what was the retort we kind of always got? Well, why didn't the Leafs do the same thing?
Yes, with Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
That was a conversation that was definitely had as well. Whereas, they did it with Matt Tkachuk. Why didn't the Maple Leafs do this for Austin Matthews? And previously it's been done. Mark Stone did it with Vegas the year that they had won the Cup, right? Nikita Kucherov did it the 1 year that Tampa won the Cup. And years ago, Patrick Kane was kind of the first guy who did it when he was a member of the Chicago Blackhawks. Guess what they did, Dave? Oh, they went on to win the Stanley Cup. So this has been proven to be an effective tactic, and the Maple Leafs opted not to do it. And clearly, like Matthews, he could have played. He did play, obviously. He was hurt, but he played, and he did his best. And there's a good chance that Tkachuk could have played. There's a good chance that years ago, Kucherov could have played at some point, game 79, 80, 81, or 82. But instead, they put him on LTIR, and then once they got to the playoffs, activate him, and it doesn't matter anymore. Remember the famous T-shirts where it was like, I don't know, $91 million in cap or something like that? It was like $13 million over the cap was like a T-shirt that they had made because then Carolina was complaining that they couldn't compete with a cap team or a team that was so far over the cap or something like that. So that's not going to be a thing anymore, essentially, is what we're getting at. Every single team will have to be cap compliant come playoffs, and they're using the full season's cap, so they have full year AAV. So cap accrual, not necessarily going to be an overutilized thing like it had been in the past, which I think that's the part where I find it weird that they didn't give them more of a runway in that regards. Because if you're a team like the Leafs where you're hoping, we'll go into the season with some cap space, we can accrue more, and then we can make a big ad at the deadline. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, if we make that ad, it's like it's still going to have to be within the cap compliance of the start of the regular season, not the accrued cap space, which is definitely changes things.
Yeah, it moves the goalpost once again. Because
it makes it harder. Makes it hard to trade and to make big moves. Absolutely, it does.
It does. And like, what do you want if I'm the NHL, you look at your other. I'll put the NBA and I'll put the MLB in there because NFL, it's harder to make deals in the NFL during in season. But you look at the NBA and MLB, how much movement happens in season, right? Especially in the NBA, it's because there isn't this idea of, we got to stick to a budget, and now we're going to hold teams to that for the first time in a really long, in a long time. Because how many years we talked about how many teams were over the salary cap? The NHL was fine with it up until this year. It actually does and I was talking with some colleagues about this. Now it kind of takes away from that potential excitement of, I'm sure a lot of Panthers fans were excited that they went and they got Marchand and they got Seth Jones.
Yeah.